nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madison Area Public Schools Board of Education special meeting calls to order at 6 p.m. Looking at our agenda, we have one item to ask. Item number 4A, TEC scholarship. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Are there any questions? If not, I need a motion. Motion by Tom, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Agenda carries. Do we have any public communication? No. There will be a second public communication comment period at the end of the meeting for any other items. Moving on first real quick, Duke, you have some new information about a TEC scholarship?
Yeah, at the last MCOE meeting I was at, I found out that there's a TEC scholarship. It's a Technical Education Center scholarship, okay? It's available, do you know about it? Okay, we're enrolled in it then? The students know? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, it was the first I heard about it, and I wanted to make sure it was available. Basically, it's a vocational scholarship for anybody that's in a vocational program. They got to be referred by the vocational teacher. You have to be a graduate, and it basically, you work, and you get your degree. So businesses are going to give you a job 15 to 20 hours a week, and you go to school in that career field. And it could help students become long-term employees. If anybody needs a copy of it, do you already have a copy?
I could always use another.
Okay, I'll send it to you and Penny and Holly. Is that right? Paul. Okay. Okay? All right, thanks. Okay.
Moving on, I'd like to welcome Mr. Nathan Boots. He's the superintendent of Ithaca Public Schools in Ithaca, Michigan. I'd just like to take a minute to outline tonight's format. The board will take turns asking a series of questions during a 60-minute time frame. Then there will be about 10 minutes for Mr. Boots to ask questions of the board and provide a closing statement if he desires. A timekeeper will keep the candidate and the board aware of the time remaining. If the audience has questions, please write them down on a 3x5 card available throughout the room and give them to Mark Eckhart. The board will consider these comments if the questions are not duplicates or illegal. They may be included tonight or in the second round of interviews if time permits. We realize that the task of choosing our next superintendent is a responsibility of the board as representatives of our community. We appreciate and seek input from the staff and community in this process. And while we are not seeking recommendations as to which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input as to the strengths and concerns about each of the candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Nathan Boots.
I was asking Mark if this is like the Palace of Auburn Hills, you know, we turn the lights off and do the show. Yeah,
That would be fantastic.
it sounds like fun, doesn't it? Hi, Jim. Nice to meet you. Oh, I'm ready. I can hear myself already, so that's...
Welcome, Mr. Boots.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and start now. First off, while we have had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. So could you please take 2 to 3 minutes to briefly tell us about your educational background, employment history, and why this particular position interests you, and anything else that will assist the board in its decision-making process.
Can I address the public because they haven't had a chance to,
Yes, sir.
to look at it? Okay. Thanks for coming. I appreciate your attendance here tonight. My name's Nathan Boots. I'm the superintendent of Ithaca Public Schools, which is in central Michigan, just in between Lansing and Mount Pleasant. I started out my career in Marshall Public Schools. Marshall Public Schools in 1994, teaching physics, chemistry, applied biochemistry, and journalism. Coached for 5 years, varsity softball, boys and girls basketball. Moved to the UP to become an athletic director, secondary principal, and then varsity girls basketball coach on top of that when my coach left the day before season started. Was there for 3 years. Moved to Shepherd, which is right next to Mount Pleasant again, for 5 years to be the high school principal of a big Class B school. And then moved to Rudyard in 2006 to take on my first superintendency. And that was a learning experience to move to the Eastern Upper Peninsula as well, become a superintendent. And then the position at Ithaca came open, which I applied for in 2010 and got. So I moved my family down there. And it's been a wonderful experience living in Ithaca, being a part of that community. In the last 5 years, winning 5 state championships has been a wonderful thing to experience as an administrator and as a dad. So I'm looking forward to my next opportunity. I have family that lives over here. My brother works at the Ludington Hospital, and we've wanted to move to the west side of the state and be close to the water. And I'm a Mackinac City graduate, so being surrounded by water on 3 sides growing up, and then I moved to Gratiot County, which is where Ithaca is, where they have no water. So that was very difficult. So the opportunity to move back to the water and get to Manistee is very appealing to myself. So welcome and thank you. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
First question. In what ways have your previous positions prepared you for assuming the superintendent position here? How have your professional experiences prepared you for a district of our size and need?
Everything that I've done so far has made me into the person that I am today. All the decisions, right and wrong, the teaching, the coaching, the experiences, you learn from your mistakes. And I look at the size districts that I've served and worked at and the different regions that I've worked at. I enjoy the Northern Michigan experience. I look at my doctoral program and that's, as I work on my doctorate, that's for me. That's for my own, learning. But the preparedness of being a superintendent, I don't think anything can really prepare you for that. It's, especially in the climate that Michigan is in right now, it's probably the most difficult it's ever been. My father was a superintendent in Mackinac City for 21 years, and he talks about the good times in education. I'm still waiting for the good times to show up as far as funding goes. And back then they were able to go after a millage and help support their local schools that way. And so how does my preparedness and my history help prepare me for a district of Manistee size? I've worked in districts that are larger. Ithaca is not that much smaller than Manistee. And so how does that experience prepare me for the needs of Manistee? We're in the same boat. All of us in public education are in the same boat. It feels like we're drinking out of a fire hose most days when it comes to dealing with the legislators. But we're always have our hand out. We're trying to find out better ways to educate our kids, smarter ways to educate our kids, and different ways to fund our schools. And so I found myself really torn how to do that as a local superintendent. And as a local superintendent, I find myself, you're the face of your district, but you're also, I hate using the word politician because as soon as you say politician, people start thinking it's a negative thing. But you have to be involved in local politics as well as state politics. And I found myself getting to know my local legislators at the state and regional level because they're very important. And the relationships that I've built with those people, I think has really helped myself as a superintendent and has moved our initiatives as an educational force, moved them forward. When I'm able to get a text message from a local state rep on my birthday, we've got relationships. And I think that's important to develop. And I want to be able to bring those relationships with me to Manistee.
So right into the next question. Why do you want to be the superintendent of Manistee Area Public Schools?
Location, location, location. And simply, it's an area of the state I want to move to. It's a place that's going to be close to my family. And as I've driven around town a couple times before, either on vacation or the last time I was here. And there's a lot, they offer a lot. Your community offers a lot for anyone. And I want to be a part of this environment. I think there are some challenges here that I'm ready to take on and embrace. I look forward to those kinds of challenges. That excites me a great deal. I love the fact that you're knee-deep in technology, and that's such an important role in my own personal world as well as my professional world. The fact that you guys are an Apple district just excites me because I'm a Mac guy. I drank the Kool-Aid, I'm sorry. But that's important. That's who I am, and I want to be a part of that. Thanks, Chris.
Please tell us how you would go about establishing strong partnerships among the schools and local businesses, industry, community organizations, local government, and our tribal government.
Boy, I'm glad this question doesn't have multiple parts. It's kind of like taking the M-step. Yeah, kids are having fun with that right now. Right now in education, it's about building those partnerships and relationships. It's very important to the work that we do as a public school. And you look at the relationships that you could have or should have, they can either make you or break you. They can make you a better institution or a worse institution. And so, for example, the partnerships you develop with other local schools. What can my school district provide you as a neighboring school district that you can't get anywhere else? Is it possible that you don't have a pre-calculus teacher? I have a pre-calculus teacher. Let's share that teacher. You don't have Spanish 3 and 4? I have Spanish 3 and 4. How can I share that with you? You know, you send kids to a career center in Ludington. You know, you develop those partnerships. You look at your ISD, Manistee ISD. I know your ISD superintendent very well. I want to meet with Jeff and say, hey, what do we need to do to make this a better fit for all of us? You look at all your neighboring schools. The state of Michigan, because of the funding model, has put us in direct competition with each other. And sometimes that works, a lot of times it doesn't. And so we want to build partnerships and strengthen relationships so it doesn't feel like that. So you take a look at your relationships with your local industry. I sit on a board, the Education Industry Roundtable, where we meet once a month as superintendents and industry owners, leaders, and managers and talk about what can we do as a public school to help you as a local business. Because I have your future workforce. So what can I do to make your future workforce ready to go to work here? Because if we prepare our kids to work here, then obviously we want our population to grow. We don't necessarily want them to get jobs and move somewhere else. We want people to come and live here in Manistee. Local government, I think it's important that you have a relationship with your local government, your local city government. I have a great relationship with my local city council and my mayor. We meet on a regular basis. The expectation is that we have a great relationship and we communicate all the time. We do partnerships on everything we possibly can. We've talked about even sharing insurance plans to go that far. And then lastly, your local tribe. When I was the superintendent of Rudyard, that was one of the biggest issues that I had to deal with because we had 33% population that were tribal students. And it helped the fact that I'm a member of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. I'm 25% Chippewa. It helped my relationship with my local tribe. So it was a point where we were partners on a lot of different things, healing the hurtness, the hurt that had happened before and the previous superintendent. It was very difficult to overcome. But because of the relationships we built, that school district is better off because of that. So I look forward to the opportunity to work with the local tribe and start developing that partnership because there's so many resources that are here that I think are untapped or that used to be here that haven't been further developed. So I look forward to working on that.
Okay, kind of changing directions here. What experience or role do you have with collective bargaining? What do you believe the roles of the superintendent and the board should be in the process?
Collective bargaining is a pretty important process. We deal with many different unions and associations. In the bargaining process, it requires a lot of open, honest conversation. Integrity has to be right there. They have to believe in the numbers that you present. And I'm a firm believer that when I negotiate with my teachers or my custodial group or my parapros, that if you want to see something in the books, it's public knowledge anyways. Ask for it, I'll give it to you. You don't have to give me a FOIA request or anything like that. We'll print it out, knock yourself out. You want to look at all the audits for the past 5 years? Here you go, here's a copy. And it's that sense of openness where they believe that you're going to tell them the truth, helps your collective bargaining process. But it's a process. We're going to talk to each other, we're going to do what's best for you as an employee and what's best for the district, because ultimately we need to make sure we have enough money to operate and make sure that we're still a district 3 years from now. So the budget forecasting becomes very important. Looking at your number of students you're going to have becomes very important. And those are conversations you have with your union leadership. And I think that's the biggest part of collective bargaining, is developing those relationships with those people.
You talked a little bit about money and finance. My question is, what ideas might you explore to raise money for the district? And have you had success in procuring additional funds for your district now?
As a superintendent of Ithaca, we were the only district in Gratiot Isabella RESD that did not have an alternative ed program. We used to have one prior to my arrival, and what we were ending up seeing is a bunch of our kids who did not fit in that traditional high school model ended up leaving and going to other school districts. And so I developed a partnership with an online school, very similar to your Great Lakes Academy. And I now have a handful of my own students, but similar to you guys, we have other students from across the state of Michigan that are either incarcerated or in lockup from all over, who are now enrolled in our online program. The only difference is you're getting 3% of an FTE, I'm getting 10%. That kind of relationship that you can develop with those kind of organizations, I think, is going to be very, very important. I think the one last thing before you start, Tom, I'm sorry. Another way to generate money, we have to develop that trust again with the community in the school district. If you look at your track record on any kind of millage or bond issue or sinking fund that you've attempted, there's a huge need for here. You look at your elementary buildings, they need help. You do not have enough money in the general fund to take care of those things. You're one big incident away from being bankrupt. And so I think it's important to develop the relationships with your local community, your citizens, your business, and your industry to get them to support the school so they feel part of this bigger community, that sense of community, the unity within your community, so they want to support Manistee. And so you look at something like a sinking fund. Recently at Ithaca, we just passed a 10-year sinking fund that'll generate $630,000 a year, $6.3 million. Passed a bond issue my first year there for $3.62 million. Passed a vocational millage my third year there for $2.6 million. And so we've been able to generate additional revenues to help my district and offset the loss from the state of Michigan. Yep. Thanks, Doug.
How do you perform your role and responsibility as a superintendent, yet delegate responsibility and authority to the administrative team and staff?
Everyone has a role and responsibility, a job description, if you will. Part of my job is to put the right people in place so they can do their job. Give them the necessary support, encouragement, and direction so they can do their job better, and to hold them accountable for doing that job. You guys are going to hold me accountable for doing my job. I, in turn, are going to hold my people accountable to do their job. But there has to be that sense of teamwork, collegiality. And the one thing that I enjoy doing is working with my building principals, working with my tech director, working with my maintenance and operations director, so they feel empowered to do their job and not feel like they're looking over their shoulder. And I think that's an important relationship to build within this school community.
Hi. How would you get to know the community, staff, students, and parents, and how would you propose to keep the community informed and involved on educational and district concerns, activities, and functions?
Mark, I want to thank you for writing these really long questions. Visibility is huge. You have to be a visible person. You got to be out there in the public. You got to be interfacing and interacting with the public, with the staff, with the students. What I've been able to do in my current district, Ithaca, I'm the public address announcer for my football games. I'm also a public address announcer for my boys and girls basketball games. So the people get to see me, get to hear me, get to interact with me. I have kids that go to school. I'm in the buildings all the time. I attend all the various events. I think that's the best part about being a superintendent, is they have the opportunity to attend all these different events that are community-based, that are school-based, be visible and interface with all the different groups and organizations. And that's the part I really like, because I like getting out there and meeting different people and building relationships. That's probably the biggest, most important thing a superintendent can do. They're the face of your organization in your district, and they need to be out there interacting with your people. So how does a superintendent keep the public informed? Gosh, there's so many different ways. Whether it's something as simple as a district newsletter that you can print or just put on a website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the digital wave to keep people informed. I love doing that too, but I also like being out there face-to-face and meeting with people. And that means interacting with businesses. Being a part of the community means being a part of the community. I'm going to live in Manistee. I'm going to be a part of this community. I'm going to buy my groceries here. I'm going to go to dinner here. I'm going to go to church here. That's what being a superintendent's about.
Well, I think you answered my question too, on how do you enhance school and community pride. So if you'd like to expand on it.
I'm going to bleed school colors. I'm going to be a cheerleader for all the kids' activities and events because I'm here to promote my district. Am I going to be biased for my kids? You're darn right I am. And that's one of the biggest knocks I had as I'm working on my doctoral, work. Everything I write, they were telling me, everything you write is biased. I'm like, that's because I'm a school superintendent. I'm trying to promote an agenda for my district all the time. And that's how you promote your district and interface with your people. They want to know that your superintendent believes in the district and the product and the kids. And that's what I do.
What has been the most unpopular administrative decision you've had to make, and how did you handle the reaction to your decision?
The absolute most unpopular decision I've ever made as a superintendent was closing an elementary building. That was difficult because you have people that lived in that particular community. And in Rudyard, we had an elementary building in Trout Lake, an elementary building in Rudyard, an elementary building in Kinross. So 3 communities feeding in. When I had to close the elementary building in Kinross, Kinchlow used to be the old Air Force Base. Not very popular. That's also where most of my Native American students resided too, in that community. So lots of public forums, lots of open and honest conversation with those people. Give them the opportunity to be heard. Because really that's all they wanted. You're going to close my elementary school. I want to talk to you face to face in a public forum and grill you on those questions and tell me why. Because we still need to be here in 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And the greatest threat we had, you close this building, we're leaving. I'm sorry, folks, we have to make tough decisions. That's a choice for you as a parent, which I respect, but I believe I'll get you back. So that next fall, after we closed the building, there wasn't a decline. We kept the kids. And that's with a local charter school driving up and down my streets trying to pick up kids, too. So it was about the integrity of the situation and being open and honest with the people you serve.
What strategies do you use to build trust, respect, and teamwork and ensure all staff feel valued?
I think it's important that the staff and the community get to know your superintendent. They need to know me as a person so they can understand who I am, where I'm coming from, why I do the things I do. The communication of that is very, very important to the success or failure of the superintendency as well as the district. They need to see me as a human and not just some guy that sits in an office. I'm not a guy that likes to sit in my office. I can't stand sitting in my office. I need to be out and visible. And I like visiting classrooms. I like watching and interacting with my staff. I'm not going to ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. I think it's important as the superintendent of your district to know everybody that works for me. And right now in my district, I know every bus driver, every custodian, every parapro. And to start the school year off, I always have a back to school party at my house. I open my doors up. Come on and break bread with me. Because we're in this together, we're a team, and I think that's important to impress upon everyone that works here. You're just as important. The first person every kid sees, just as an example, the first person every kid sees in the district in the morning sometimes is a bus driver. That bus driver needs to feel important because they could set the tone for that kid's day. They're also the last person they see at the end of the day. They set the tone. Which person cleans their classroom? Which person makes that spick and span and ready to go? The teachers need to know who the custodian is that cleans their classroom. You know, that sense of we are in this together, not necessarily a hierarchy system. We're a team. And I just want to be your head coach.
This is a hypothetical. As a new superintendent, you have inherited our staff. What do you look for in each of them? How do you measure and evaluate these qualities? And how do you nurture their gifts and talents?
There's going to be a learning process for everybody. I want everyone to feel like they've got a clean slate with me. Regardless of what past or history you have, I want you to be able to earn your way with me. And the same thing goes for me. You don't know who I am. I'm going to earn your trust. And I want you to earn my trust. And again, it's about building the relationship with these people. To be able to nurture a sense of team, I got to give them the opportunity to work hard, give them the support so they can be successful. Everyone should have goals, attainable, measurable goals. And as we work towards that, we celebrate our successes, we try to work on our failures, but move together as a team. And I think that's pretty important as a superintendent. The people that work in the district need to know that I'm here for them. They're taxpayers, they're parents, just like me. So let's do it together.
Can you give us an example of how you have dealt with an administrator or staff member who is not performing at the level of the district's expectations?
An example. My first month at Rudyard, I had a building administrator come to me in the afternoon, just after school let out, and he told me that he had made a mistake that day. So let's sit down, let's talk about it. What's going on? He told me that he was informed early in the morning that another student had a knife in their backpack. Like, okay, what do we do about it? So I went to look for the dean of students, and he was busy with a kid, and so I kind of forgot about it. School safety is pretty important in our world today. And so I asked him, why did you wait? What were you thinking in regards to a kid may have a knife in their backpack? You didn't go down and investigate right away. You chose to wait and then you forgot about it. There really isn't a good excuse for that. And so I ended up putting him on a plan of assistance. And throughout that process, realized that he was better off being a teacher again in the district and not an administrator. So I reassigned him. And it comes back to accountability. It comes back to holding people accountable for their actions and behaviors. And by doing so, again, gave the rest of the staff the sense of, you know what? We have to toe the line. We got to do our job. And if we're not going to do a job, we'll be held accountable for it. And so it worked out in the end for him. It also worked out in the end for us. So.
How do you communicate and keep the board informed of issues between and outside of formal board meetings?
think it's really important that we have a constant line of communication. You're going to get a weekly update from me of all the stuff that's happened in the district, issues that come up, complaints that come up. I'm probably going to communicate with your board president a little bit more on some other little issues. We'll probably decide whether or not it's something that warrants letting everybody know, but more often than not, you're going to get an email blast from me. If it requires something immediate, you'll get phone calls because we need to know right now. I'm not against sending a quick text message to remind you of an upcoming meeting, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, bring this, bring that. It's important that the job that we do, that we stay on the same page in the lines of communication.
Given what you know about our school district, could you tell us what you believe are the most immediate challenges we face?
I think that your biggest immediate challenge, a couple different things. Maintaining a certain level of finance and security, dealing with infrastructure issues. The age of your buildings needs to be addressed. And the third thing that's probably pretty important is building that sense of trust and relationships with your community. Because in order for us to fix the other two, we're going to have the partnerships built. And it's going to have to happen right away. There's no waiting you can't wait into it. We have to do it, and we have to do it now. Because these are the people we serve.
How would you go about evaluating the effectiveness of the curriculum, assessments, and teaching methods in the district?
Well, I like to personally observe it. It's part of what I do. I'm an educator, number one. I want to be in the classrooms and see what's going on for myself. But my job is not necessarily to be a classroom evaluator. Our teachers have been trained. They're professionals. We expect them to live up to the expectations. We have content. We have curriculum. It's teaching that content and curriculum, doing it well, and making the assessments. Teachers are going to be judged just like building principals and superintendents on student proficiency. That's going to be really important. So how do we evaluate the effectiveness of our curriculum and instruction and assessment? Through observation. Let's take a look at our student achievement. How do our students achieve compared to other schools in the area? Where do we stack up in our ISD? Where do we stack up in the state? Unless we're number one in the entire state of Michigan, then we have room to grow. We have a place to go. But we're not going to do that by ourselves. We're not going to do it in isolation. And that requires partnerships with other school districts, ISDs, leaders from around the state. But together, we'll achieve more.
You've already touched on the next question, and you could elaborate on it if you'd like to, but have you ever conducted a bond levy?
Yes. Passed a bond issue in 2010, sinking fund 2014, vocational millage in 2013. So I've had lots of experience interacting with the public, trying to sell an initiative for my district to the public, and it's benefited my district greatly.
Athletics and co-curricular activities are very important to our students and our community. Please share with us your philosophy and priorities of these activities.
In Ithaca, we finally got beat for the first time this year in football. We had won 69 consecutive games during my tenure as superintendent. How important is athletics to a community? It's extremely important to a lot of people. And as a former athlete and a former band player and a former drama club member in high school, it was important to me growing up too. It was a reason for me to come to school and get good grades, other than the threat of my dad, doing whatever. But it has its place in our schools. And there are a lot of kids that if you didn't have those co-curricular activities, they wouldn't care about coming to school. It's what they live and breathe for. And so what can we do as a community and as a school to make sure that they have the best opportunities, to have the most opportunities? I think that's so important. And as a superintendent, again, I want to make sure I have the right people in place for our kids to be successful, because our kids they deserve to have the best possible programs available to them. Your band program is phenomenal. Met your band director today. She's a great lady. And that's something to be very proud of. You guys have some points of pride. And that's going to be a question of mine for you guys later. But we want to develop more points of pride. What else can we grow and get really good at?
What are your thoughts and experiences with online learning communities and technology and one-to-one in the classroom?
When I first moved to Ithaca, I was really deep into learning how to use the iPad. I was then doing quite a few presentations across the state to MASB, MEMSPA, MASSP, MASA, all the principal organizations and school board organizations. And I was out there presenting and selling the idea of one-to-one initiatives for school districts and how important the role technology is going to have in our 21st century learning. The kids are exposed to it so much in their lives. And as adults, we're sometimes a little bit behind the curve. Our students are digital natives. This is what they've grown up with. As adults, we tend to be digital immigrants. It's something we're just kind of learning how to do. And as our kids are playing in that digital playground, we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence to keep up with that kind of learning. And so the one-to-one initiatives that I've pushed and promoted in my own district has been really important. We have quite a few classrooms where they have their iPads and their sets. I'm extremely jealous of how much you guys have. I can't wait to have that level of exposure. But I think it's very important in what we do. And as the kids, we're trying to prepare our students for jobs and careers that haven't even been invented yet. And the only way that's going to happen is by getting them ready to use the technologies that are available today and prepare them for the technologies of tomorrow. And that means we have to expose them to it.
What do you see as the role of the board and the superintendent, and how do you see the board and the superintendent working together?
It's a partnership. This right here is a speed date, for about 60 minutes. You're trying to feel me out, and as you're asking me questions, I'm trying to figure you guys out too. This is a personality test. The questions, whether I know the question or not, these are all questions I could look up and get an answer for you. I think it's important that we have that sense of trust. You guys need to trust that I'm the kind of person that's going to do the job for you and for the community, a place that you want to send your kids to school because of who you hired. And ultimately, I think it's important that your superintendent makes you proud. I want the members of the community to come to you after a year, 2, 5 years and say, God, you did a great job hiring a superintendent. That's the guy we needed. And so what I want to do is make you guys proud of the job that I am going to do. And I think it's important that we develop our relationships. There's 7 of you, but 1 of me. And that's going to take a lot of time. And for us to have that kind of relationship is going to take time, it's going to take patience, and a great deal of trust. And I look forward to developing that. Mm-hmm. Anyone? Bueller?
Deep in thought. In our community, high morals and ethical standards are of utmost importance in a superintendent. Can you give me an example of how you have displayed these traits?
The high morals and standards, it's important that people trust you. And it's never more evident when you're sitting at a table and negotiating with people for their livelihood. I want them to know that I live here too. I work here too. For example, I'm not going to sell you on an insurance plan that could potentially put your family in jeopardy because guess what? I'm going to be on the same insurance plan. We need to make sure that we trust each other in the words coming out of my mouth. I can back them up on paper. I can show you and tell you that if our fund balance is down to 2%, here it is. Take a look. Ask questions. You want to look at the whole budget? Let's take a look at it, sit there together. So I think it's important that people understand who I am, and I get to know those people and develop the relationship and trust, but that takes time, and it has to be earned.
Thank you, Mr. Boots.
You're welcome.
We do have some questions from the audience.
Fire away.
The first question, You wrote a letter to the governor asking to change your school to a prison. This gained national attention. What, if any, changes came from that letter, and do you regret writing that letter?
Nope, stand behind it today. The one thing that came out about it was I wanted to bring to attention to the general public how poorly we fund our schools and the expectations that are lumped upon our public schools. We have the expectation that school is going to fix society. We're going to cure all the ills that go on with all these kids. And people don't realize that we really don't have them for that long during the day. They get exposed to many other things. Nights, weekends, summer, vacation, you name it. I wanted to make the public aware that we spend this much money after the fact, after we've failed people in incarceration. And if we ever spent 1 year, just 1 year's time, to take that dollar amount and spend it on kids when they were in school, we probably wouldn't have these problems. And so when writing that letter, I knew there's going to be some backlash, but the number of emails and phone calls I received from across the entire United States, I heard from 32 different states. I got phone calls from ABC News, World News Tonight, Bill Maher. I mean, just wanted to talk, and NPR, to have that discussion, that debate, and bring it out there. And so I was happy I wrote it. It's how I felt at the time. And I think it's important that we continue those kind of dialogues, because the kids we're educating today, they're going to be future board members. They're going to be future politicians. We want to make sure they're best prepared, and we owe it to ourselves.
Thank you. Second question. How do you see the role of technology in our curriculum?
Technology is a tool. If you want to make it really simple, technology is a tool. There's a place for it. There's a use for it. It doesn't replace quality classroom instruction. If you have a great teacher can teach a kid with very little technology or a great deal of technology. But I want to give people the resources and the tools necessary to do a fantastic job, not just a good job. And technology has its place. I'm just as guilty. I probably overdo it with my own technology. The MacBook I have, the iPad I have, the iPhone I have, I'm connected all the time. I need to power down once in a great while just to, maintain my own sanity. But there's a place and a time for it, but it's such an important part of what we do as educators today, because technology is going to play such a huge role in what our kids do tomorrow. And so there's a place for it in our curriculum. Heck, we're using the technology now to assess, like the M-STEP the kids are taking. We've been talking about this for years. It's finally here. You look at the way we instruct now using technology with the iPads and your laptops, and using Moodle and using Blackboard, and the kids using different presentation tools. It's an important part of what we do, important part of our business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question from the audience. Based on your knowledge of MAPS, what is your vision going forward?
I could answer that question, but maybe I want to give that to you in a second interview. I'm kidding. Based on what I know about Manistee, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people that work here. I've been through your community. I've looked at all your documents that you have online. That's the easy stuff. That's the low-hanging fruit. But I firmly believe that Manistee is a good school district. You're solid. You do a lot of things very well. Can you do it better? I'm not saying I'm a miracle worker. It's not what I'm getting at. But I like to be a team leader, and I think we could achieve more. I think we do a better job on a couple different things. And it's going to take a lot of trust, a lot of teamwork amongst staff, administration, our local community. We've talked about a lot of different things tonight, trying to build up a fund balance, trying to provide more for our kids, not cut programs, expand programs. And I think that's an important part of what we're supposed to be doing as a public education institution. And because of the difficult times that we're in right now, we've had to really stop and think, can we do this today? Can we do it tomorrow? Manistee is a proud community. I want to be a part of that tradition. And I think there's some great things going on here. I want to be a part of that. But there's stuff that we can keep moving forward. Just little things, like your track, your elementary buildings that need addressing. Those are the little things that make a big deal to a lot of people. You know, you look at your flagship that you have here, this building right here. Passed your bond issue in, 2003 or so? I think it's the only bond issue put in front of the voters since the 60s and passed. There's a great deal of healing that needs to take place with the community and get them to believe in the school district again. And I want to be a part of that.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the board? And would you like to make a closing statement?
I would. What do you see as a school board as some of the greatest challenges facing the district?
Starting with community, even though it is one of our best things going forward. We love our community. We've got a great community. Like you've alluded to, healing needs to occur, trust needs to occur, and we need to bring our community together. Challenges, once we bring that community together, we should be able to improve our facilities even more. I believe we need to look for alternate sites of funding, alternate avenues. Anything else from the rest of the board?
How would you rate your relationship with your local businesses?
Good.
It's the one thing I've enjoyed.
Not excellent, right?
Okay, yeah,
Good.
but there's room to go, of course. That's the one thing I've enjoyed as I was asked to be a part of the Gratiot County Chamber of Commerce Board. And so it's been nice getting a chance to see those businesses in that context and helping them grow, and how can I help them as an educator. So it's a part of what we do as a local school, working with the local government and local businesses. I think that's an important part. What is Manistee the most proud of? If I were to ask you individually, what are your points of pride? What are the first couple things that would come to mind?
Community, one-to-one program, our IAP, our interim assessment program. Anything else?
As I've talked to some of your administrators today, that's the one thing I kept hearing. You have a great staff. It's good to hear that from administrators, that they believe in the people that they work for and work with. It's impressive. I guess the next question is, do you see the next leader of Manistee as someone that you can work with, move the district forward, and do you see that as a long-term relationship? Are you looking for someone to come in and just do a quick, fix this real quick and then go, or do you want to have that long-term partnership?
We as a board and members of our community are looking for a long-term relationship. You know, it takes a long time to achieve things, and I think we're deluding ourselves if we think we can accomplish excellence within a year, 3 years, even 5 years. It's a longer process.
Yeah.
So long-term is the key. We need to do better with long-term planning. We need to focus down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate that. In closing, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come over. This is my 21st year in education, and I still feel like I've got a lot of gas left in the tank. I want to be able to finish my career in a proud community like this that has a lot to offer to family. And I love the area. It's gonna provide me with a great sense of satisfaction to be able to work in a community like this. And hopefully we can build those partnerships together and really do some of the things we talked about tonight. In closing, I'm not going to give you any kind of Buffalo story. If you want to know who I am, we could sit and talk in any scenario, in any situation, and I'll tell you the straight scoop. And I think it's important that when you hire your superintendent, that you hire somebody that you can have a nice conversation with and talk to as a human being, as a father, as a coach, you name it. I mean, the number of kids that I've coached in my own community right now, I get to know those kids and their parents. And I think it's important that your next superintendent becomes a part of your community that wants to have that buy-in. And I look forward to hopefully having the opportunity to do just that. So thank you for the opportunity to interview, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from you soon.
Thank you, Mr. Boots, for your interest in being Manistee Area Public Schools' next superintendent. We are going to be finishing our interview process tonight, and Mark will contact you regarding the second interview and the process we will use if you are chosen for another interview. Once again, we really appreciate your interest, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good luck with your deliberations.
Okay, Nathan, if you want to go around, for all of you, what's going to happen now is the board's going to take a little bit of a recess, gather their thoughts, do the things that they need to do. I think you have some lunch, dinner back there. Then we're going to come back in here and we're going to go through a process to see about narrowing it down to who you're going to bring back next, to how many, and all those things. So, Nathan, thanks for coming. And these are the folks right here. So
We're in recess until, we are back from recess at 7:20. Just a quick comment for me before we turn this back over to Mark, who will lead us in our discussion. I want to say to the rest of the board, thank you. This is a lot of time and effort. Conducted this very professionally, and it's great to see the group of us kind of come together. We've got people here from all walks of life, so I think we've got a good snapshot of the community, and I know we can make our community proud by making this decision.
Agreed.
You need the microphone.
Can you do that all over?
When something's heartfelt, you can't.
Oh, you just got me.
Sorry, guys. Before we start and turn this back over to Mark Eckhart to lead us in our discussion over the candidates, I just want to say I'm really struck by the professionalism of the board, my fellow members here. Thank you for how honestly you've attacked this. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and above all, we're trying to keep all of this discussion above board. We are being honest and open. The community here benefits from us having people from all walks of life. I think we've got a great snapshot of the community here on the board, and I know we can make the community proud with this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start this process, and what I would like the board to do is just talk about each and every one of the candidates for a few minutes. Before they left for their break, I had them give me a little snapshot of their initial thoughts about all the candidates interviewed. And now what we're going to do is they're going to talk about those, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to ask them a question, okay, who you want to bring back for a second interview? And that can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 5, it can be however many that they decide to do. The board is set next Monday and Tuesday for second interviews if we need 2 days to do that. And then from then on, whether site visits and then probably hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have a decision, if everything goes well to do that.
It may be longer depending on the site visit.
On the site visit, that's going to be the key to the site, and the site visits aren't going to be till after the second interview to do those things. So, and Dr. Andrew, you were talking about this. I can assure the audience, after doing these searches for quite a while now, I applaud you for the homework that you've done on each of these candidates. It's been a pleasure, trust me, a real pleasure to work with people that do their homework and have interviews like this. And I think the community can be proud of the board in what they've done for them. The candidates that you've selected to interview, we're going to discuss them. Your choice on how many, who, and whatever. What I would like to do is just start out and just start talking about the candidates and the strengths that you see in each one of them. And then when we get done talking about those strengths, I want you to delve into your minds and into your guts about, okay, who is it that you would like to bring back? And when we get done doing that, I think the numbers will speak for itself, how many you're going to bring back. So, I'm not going to have them rank the candidates as far as, well, this person is up here, we want to bring that person back, and this person is here. We're not ready to do that yet. What we're trying to do is get the people that kind of rose to the top on an equal level. And the reason I'm not going to have them rank that is that if they find out, oh man, this one candidate was out here, you're going to lose a couple candidates. And it's unfair to rank them. We're not in a position yet to start making that ranking. We can do that after the next interview process. Okay? Any questions from the audience before we get started? This is the board's decision. The board cannot absolve their responsibility to make these decisions. They cannot give the responsibility to anybody else, although there are probably going to be times when you wish that I wish somebody else was making this decision, but they're not going to do that. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening to the candidates and giving feedback. Now it's up to these 7 elected members of the community to make those decisions. So thank you. It was nice to see all of you here and show support and to show interest in the school system. And it's so crucial as you move forward. One of the things that they have to take into effect, and it's going to be a difficult thing to do, but they got to find somebody that's better looking than Joel.
Robert Redford?
That's the number one, and you have 5 candidates that meet that qualification. Careful. Okay, are we ready? I don't like to sit down. I want you to tell me about Ron Stone.
Audience, do you hear okay? Do we need to use the microphones?
You can get closer.
Get one closer.
I'm going to turn it on.
Yeah, you feel like church. Everybody's in the back.
Just turn them on. Just turn them on. Just turn them on and put them on the table. You'll pick this up. All right. You're right. Just turn yours on. Just turn it on. Just leave it on the table.
Put it in between the two of you. Yeah, that does
Okay, what we're going to talk about is the positive attributes that you've seen in these candidates. We're going to start out, we're going to go down in the list as they interviewed. And Ron Stoneman, who was the superintendent of Redford Union, was the first one. So who would like to start out to talk about Ron Stoneman?
Yeah, Mr. Stallman, it seemed to me that he is well-rounded, he has a good work ethic. I mean, the fact that he was a drywaller says a lot, because drywalling is not easy work. It's tough work. He started there, but he worked his way up. He's received his master's, and that was one thing that kind of struck me, that he's willing for a challenge.
I have a quote from him. "I've studied this district for the past month."
When I think his superintendent experience, he's had a variety from small, medium, and large. And some of the issues in the last, where he's lost 1,500 students in the last 8 years, and the complexity of that, I think he's dealt with a lot of complex issues through his years as a superintendent.
And what I've seen and reading about him is he strikes me as modeling integrity and positive culture within the schools in which he's been. He saw pay to play as being something that kind of inhibited part of the overall feeling within the school system, got rid of it, improved the system. He has experience as being the curriculum director, which is, I feel, very important. He knows the area. He's got an on-site alternative ed program. We're trying to create a program. We have created a program. We're interested in continuing on that, and so outside experiences for that kind of program are going to be helpful for us.
Middle school cyber academy also.
I like how he emphasized leadership is the we, all stakeholders, teamwork from bottom on up. It's the team.
One of the things that stood out to me is when he dealt with administrators, right? He said he's not a micromanager. He's not in their business daily. Okay, he lets leaders lead, but he teaches them his process. They know what his mind is and how they know how he would probably handle it, and he allows them to make the decisions that they need. The other thing that I found in one of his resumes that I thought was interesting was he actually went and painted his school. He got out there with a paintbrush. The school needed painted. He painted the school. He didn't put it on anybody else. He said, if it's going to be done, I'll do it too.
Every student to know his name was very, very impressive to me, as we all know how important that is. I believe every student knows Joel's name, so.
It's no snow, right?
No snow, Joel.
No snow.
He made the comment, capable members of society, all the kids should keep that as a goal.
Yes.
Of society, and another thing, he's made some tough decisions too. He's had to close buildings. As a superintendent, you have to make tough decisions. And sometimes they aren't the most popular decisions, but that's the job.
In ending, he said something about outperforming expectations.
Yes, it's move.
Yeah.
I like that.
Eat crow while it's young and fresh. If you made a mistake, admit it, deal with it, move on. Don't hide it. Let's be transparent. That's what I got from that comment.
Anything else?
It's mine.
He's very capable.
I agree.
Very approachable man.
Okay, and if you think of anything before we go on to the next step of the process, we can go back and if you have any more, remember something else about Ron or about any of the other candidates. The next candidate was Lori Wall. Lori was from Arcadia, Ohio, 15 years of experience as a superintendent. Tell me about Lori.
I like Lori. I think oftentimes she was a little vague in her answering some questions, short and to the point. I think she's very capable with her history, it shows. She's, I believe it was 13 years superintendent.
Right. Yes.
Where she was. So I liked her, and obviously I believe they liked her. They're sad to see her go.
I believe she would stress academics, very academically oriented.
Jay comments about every person on the staff is important for the kids. Each one of them. With the kids.
What else? Anything else about Lori?
She emphasizes relationships. I mean, I think they all emphasize relationships and the building and the trust. I think all five mentioned relationships, the building.
She talked about marketing and so.
Yeah.
Market what we do. Okay, anything else about Lori? Let's talk about, the next one was Susan Michael. Susan again, is the executive director of Toledo, City.
I think she was I think she was, she's a very much of she's a people person. Very enthusiastic. She just seems like she'd get along with the staff very well. She didn't finish all of her questions, but I think it's because she has so much passion for what she says, that she really believes in what she says. She believes in kids.
I don't think it would be inappropriate if I said that she was fun. I thought she was just really fun, and who doesn't want fun?
She would make school fun.
You could say that you call me fat.
Well, she was fun. She was very fun and very approachable, warm. I really liked her.
She has a wide variety of, experience from in the classroom, librarian. She had a technology.
Home ec.
She had a lot of experience.
Didn't she cook soup for people?
Yes.
Cook soup for the individual buildings.
Yeah, for the staff meetings.
I saw most of you writing that down.
That was awesome.
I thought so too.
She said
Seems like
school
she-
needs to be fun.
Yes, yeah, and that's the way she drives change and gets them involved by making it fun. It'd be kind of a neat approach.
But
I liked it.
she's not only, pleasant and approachable and just wonderful, she's also been tested. She's had to do tough things. The couple of teachers, the teacher with the drug dealer teacher and the porn peddler that she talked about, and it just, it shows that she's not only this well-qualified, smart, educated, wonderful person. When she has to be, she can be, a tough person. Yeah.
Well, she made those tough decisions. She made those decisions, and then in the next, she turned around and she found jobs for those teachers that were laid off.
Yeah. All but one, right?
Yeah, so she was had a baby.
I like it when she said that if there's rumors, maybe I'm not saying it correctly, but what she said, if there's something bothering somebody, or something going on, she's going to nip it in the bud right away. And, yes, yeah, and that you wouldn't let it fester.
You're talking about an administrator that's like doing the back work.
And she said everyone is an educator, from the bus driver to maintenance, and I think we heard that tonight as well. But everybody's part of the team. I like that.
She's also a world traveler. She can bring big ideas, new ideas into Manistee, make us be more open than maybe what we've been in the past. I think she's got a good understanding of differentiated instruction, having been a teacher in multiple areas in the past. She's done her homework on us. I think she's got a good financial sense too. Granted, Ohio and Michigan is different, but she has an understanding of finance. So she did a dissertation going around the financial estimates of how to make for the school system for Ohio. She's well respected, obviously, by her peers. Over 400 superintendents, and she was president for 3 years. That says a lot. That means experience. That means trust. It means being able to lead people.
She talked about being data-driven, looking for holes and meeting everyone's needs. And I love the fact she dressed up as an eagle at the game.
That was cool.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh,
And she knows how, she said, and she knows how important it is that kids be at reading level at 3rd grade. You know, because if you're not where you need to be at 3rd grade, you're not going to catch up. Or, well, it's going to be really, really hard to catch up. That's why I think that she realizes that the school system or the school district is from preschool until you graduate. You know, and she demonstrated to me that the school district isn't just one building, it's all the buildings, and that all the students are important, but especially the fact that she knows you got to be up to speed at 3rd grade.
Anything else? The next one that we have is Ron Wilson.
Mr. Wilson was the first one of the 4 interviewed candidates that mentioned that he was well-informed and dug deeply into our K-12 online schooling. So that really caught me.
He had to deal with some pretty sappy situations with coaching, and
Yep.
I think, you know, and he handled those fairly well. I mean, he came out okay, but
I don't know what fairly well.
yeah.
Well, not the large schools was dealing with, said that this year it's 2 deaths in the school.
Yeah.
It was met a lot of difficult things.
And all of his successful usages of ideas to bring more revenue into his school district were very impressive. Leasing the empty wing of the school, and it was very impressive.
Oh, when he used the community college.
For the, yeah,
Strong vocational education background.
Yeah.
He conducted that K-12 curriculum alignment that was, from what I'm reading, pretty successful. So if we're having curriculum issues, he's someone who could lead. He's also had a lot of experience with respect to assessments and using different tools to conduct assessments with staff and administrators, and it's something that really we need to work on here. You know, we're not getting much direction from the state of Michigan. Someone who's used some tried and true examples of that and has had some experience doing that is definitely helpful. He's a smart guy. He's well read. I mean, he's read all the leadership books. He went through MLI. He does know what he's talking about, at least in a book sense. And you know, he seems to, he has a presence, so I think he commands respect, demands trust.
I had one that I noticed, he said it a couple times, but I think it said, deep interest in my kids.
Yep, I wrote that down too.
If my kids, thinks of them as his kids. We got 8,000, that's a lot of kids.
Yes.
When he talked about encouraging kids that are in the school to get out and do community things, rake lawns, help people, you know, get out and do things. And that's one of the things that he encourages when he was talking about how you build bonds between the school and community. By getting the kids at whatever age group's doing the tasks that they can do in the community, it makes good citizens out of the kids and makes the community love the school. It gets the kids out there so that there's more parents, so that more people are engaged in the school. And I just think that it's a wonderful, wonderful win-win idea.
His style of leadership too is he knows, he feels that his principals and staff know their job, and that he should lead with a tight rein but a loose rein, and let them do their work, and there's something I like about it.
Anything else about Ryan?
I did like how he got information out with podcasts. I thought that was kind of interesting, you know. It's kind of a different way. Well, it's not that Brian over there. No, it's short videos.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah.
I still use overhead.
Yeah, he's very organized too. You know, he's the only one who really talked about a 90-day plan.
Yes. Yes.
Going forward.
Was that a teaser?
Right. Yeah.
Was that a teaser?
That was a teaser.
I got a 90-day plan. You got to bring me back.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this big.
I thought it was interesting too that he said he wants people to speak their mind. You know, and that to me tells me that he wants you to speak your mind, that you shouldn't feel intimidated to come to him and say, I mean, obviously you gotta be tactful to say, hey, this is a problem that I have, you know. That seemed to be.
Yeah, was it Ron that said something about he didn't want to have yes people? Is that Ron that said that? Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
What else? Okay, let's talk about Nathan Boots.
Well, it struck me, he's got the teaching, he's taught physics and chemistry, you know, he's a coach. I mean, he's pretty well-rounded, been around.
He mentioned he's knee-deep in technology, and I think our school is, you know, we're pretty much into technology, we might as well face that. That's good to see you grasp that.
It's almost, yeah, they got the online academy, they got the one-to-one technology. He gets 10%, we get 3.
He made a point.
He wanted to let us know that he got a little better deal.
Howard wrote that down, didn't he?
This is my coach.
Yep.
I checked the U.S. News and World Report, and her school was in the 93 percentile for proficiency in math and reading. You know, that's crazy. 93% of their students are proficient at their state level.
But I think with this, one thing you look at this is, I think the challenge for the board is you get any one of these 5 people could probably do the job. They could walk in and have the background, the experience, and they could probably do the job. Is what's the best fit for this community, the school, the staff, and where we want to go. And that's where the
task lies.
You interviewed 5 very good people. 5 very qualified people that have when you sat down and you went through who you were looking for, or what you were looking for, I should say. You know, all the criteria that you were looking for, these 5 met every one of the criteria that you had. In different ways. You know, there's not a mold up here that you could say this is going to be. And as we talk about, it's all boiled down to fit. Who do you think is going to fit in the school, in this community, the best? Okay. Any other questions before we start on this? Again, when you look at it, we set aside some time to do this. You need to be comfortable in your decisions that you're making, and moving forward. You're the 7 people that you have to feel comfortable. Some of you may get the person that you think, okay, good, I got it. And some of you may, well, that's okay. When I'm reading you and doing this, as Jimmy just said, you've got some really good candidates. So what I'd like you to do on that piece of paper, I'd like you to mark down 2 of those people that you'd like to see on the back as the candidates. Yeah, great, they put that too. She's got 5 I had a question. How do I get your question?
I have a question, Martin.
No. This isn't Call a Friend. This is
Mark.
Then put a wrap on Kumbaya. That's beautiful.
Okay, looking at these, we have 3 candidates that you've all marked out as wanting to come back. And we'll have to discuss if you want to do it. Those 3 candidates are Ron Stoneman, Susan Miko, and Nathan Boots. Okay? It's not pretty close. What they're looking at. Talk about them. You want to bring 3 back? You want to do a process to narrow it down to 2? What would you like?
I'm comfortable with those 3
I
because
am
coming
too.
back and there's one more step involved in here, and I think
I would rather that you take one more day to feel comfortable with it than to check somebody off and then wonder 3 years ago what it would have been like. My wife is doing that right now. I have to answer her every day about that.
Oh, God. Yeah, I would be very much okay with 3 too.
I would too.
If it's that close, I mean, I value everyone's opinions. We may have, our favorites. I think interviewing and spending another hour, if we're uncertain, that makes sense.
I'd rather have you spend the time up front.
What are we looking at for how many questions for the next?
I'm usually for the second interview question. What you look at is 12 to 15 questions geared towards these specific folks. They're going to be different questions for each candidate. For instance, tonight, because although I'm not quite as old as Joel, as my memory isn't that good, and you might have to help me on that. But if Nate Booth said something tonight that triggered something about the 10%, we brought up the 10%, right? Hard you got that written down. Okay, how did you negotiate that 10%? How could you do that? What impact would that have here? Now, that would be specific to me. Ron Stone went something else, might have done that. Andrew Susan, it might have been something else. Now, this is a quick turnaround to do it by, Monday and Tuesday, but we can do it. And what I'd like you to do is email me those questions, and then I'll spend this weekend trying to get them done, and then get it back to you before Monday to look at it and say, okay, is this what you want? And then Monday we can do something. And then also the audience will have the same opportunity for the 3 or 5 cards with these folks.
So, again, before we get to that, I just want to make sure with the board that we're okay with all of us, with 3 individuals. Realizing that, we do have to make a decision at some point, and, we may be putting off the inevitable. It may be making it harder in the second interview. We'll have 3 great candidates. We'll have great answers to questions. It may make it a little bit harder. So, that's the other flip side of the coin. So, is everyone okay with bringing back 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Aren't they going to be doing a tour of our facilities on the second interview?
For the second, we'll try to arrange it. They're here for a half a day to talk to folks and be around the community.
We're going to excuse me, they're going to travel separately, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, we won't have them together.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that would be good. And then do that. And also, Susan is interviewing, she's a finalist also at another school this week. So, that's you always run into it.
Yeah.
So, Mark, you will let them know tonight?
Yep, I'm going to call them tonight, let them know. We're going to have, I'm assuming, 2 on Monday, 1 early on Tuesday, and then we can do this kind of deliberation again.
Sounds good. By early, we mean starting at 6 on both days.
6 and 7:30, Joel's in there. And what we'll try to do is set it up with Joel, and I'm going to set it up with Nancy. Okay? Then we can have these things and try somebody take them around the school and meet class and see what everybody's like. It's very important. And you folks have to understand this. This board has gone through, you saw the enemies, you saw one leg of the stool. They have gone through a process so far, they know much more about these candidates than you do. Okay? And what they're going to do, and what you'll be able to do, and what you see, you know, you've got the process of the paperwork, you've got the process of the interview. Some people don't interview very well. Some people interview very well, but they don't have, their paperwork isn't as good. But what you're going to see now is how they interact with the most important commodity that you have, and that's kids. That's one thing that impressed me about this whole crew. And trust me, you don't see that as often as you do in these searches, is the number of times that all these candidates mention the word kids. And that's why you're all here. So when you see them, if they walk into an elementary school and they're doing this, the kids are on their leg instead of doing this, then you're going to know that's okay. They kind of get that. Or if they walk into a high school, how they interact with people will be very important for you, and we'll give you those feedback. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That does.
Okay. We'll set that.
All right, so questions to Mark by Friday?
Friday or Saturday.
Okay.
Fine.
By Friday or Saturday.
Questions? Some?
How many do you want from each board member?
I'll take all of them. All of you want to give me. For instance, you're going to, you give me 3 questions. You give me 5, but 2 of them are the same. Okay, I'll kind of sort through all those things.
And per candidate, you know, we'll have to specify.
And then I'll, you know, and if there's some on there that you don't see when you get your money, there's no magic number 50. You might have everything that you need for one candidate, and the other needs candidates. There's no magic. As long as you feel comfortable.
All right, well, thank you, Mark.
Any questions? Yeah.
How are we going to be told how the tours go?
Oh, you
Who's
know.
going to, I mean, do you understand
How
what I'm
many of you
saying?
are going to tell them how the tour goes?
Well, that's the thing,
Yeah.
the building administrator is going to send us an email and let us know how.
Yeah, they will.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's okay and that they do
And
that.
trust me, we can make this formal, it's better if it's informal.
Right.
Any other general comments from the board about the process?
Yeah, please let me know if there's something that we need to take a different angle on and do something different. You said, oh, this is your search, and we'll do whatever you want us to do.
So after we do our final interviews, do we kind of go through the same thing we just did again?
Yeah.
Discuss the 3 interviews?
You're gonna have, this gives you an opportunity to say. You're gonna hear from community members, you know, you might hear from outside people about, you know, these different things. You're narrowing it down. That's okay. That's what you have to process. Now what you're looking for is you've got the paperwork. You've seen them in action, how they interact with the group, and the questions and stuff. And now it goes from 2 places now. You've done this. Now it goes from here and here. That's what it's going to boil down to.
So when the site visit,
Site visit will be after. And you may choose, when you get done doing this on Tuesday, you may have one, we want that person. We'll do a site visit. And if it works out great, we got it. If it doesn't, then we'll go down and we'll do another site visit somewhere else.
Will we do that site visit next week then, or?
We'll try to set it up as soon as we can.
Okay, because I will need to take a day off work.
so we're going to move towards a decision before the site visit?
No. When you come back to the site visit, if there's 1 or 2 people, you'll know. This is the person, and then we'll bring it back, and we'll meet just like this. And you'll explain to us and the community what you're thinking and make a decision.
Again, taking and community involvement just one step further. Please approach whichever board member that you feel the most comfortable with. Let them know your thoughts, let them know what you're looking for. Let them know what your experience has been here, like this. We would value your input.
And if you hear things from these other schools and stuff, please let me know. I'll relay it. The last thing I want to do is to have one board member have more information than any of the other board members. That will defeat the purpose of this.
Right, and then if we get information, we pass it on.
Yeah, share it with each other so that you have Okay?
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate
Mark.
it. All right, any second public communication? None. Any comments? Thank you.
I
Thank
do
you,
have a
everybody.
comment.
Yes.
The first of probably many that this is going to be brought up, but Joel, thank you. You picked us up when we fell, and you helped us so much. And just before it gets right to the end, we just love you. Thank you.
That we do. Yeah. If I could have a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Support.
Okay. Motion by
Paul.
Second. Motion by Paul, second by Shelley. All those in favor, say yes. Yes. All those opposed?